Marriage is a wonderful thing, and we should all do our best to keep creating and making it fresh. But unfortunately, 40 to 50% of marriages these days are ending up in divorce. So always work towards the best, but you also want to be prepared in case things go a little south.
So Our Lady of the Law, Felicia Walker, is joining us today. And Felicia, you wanted to talk a little bit today about prenuptial agreements and the importance you guys say of having one.
I do. I know it's kind of a killjoy type of conversation to have, especially when wedding season is upon us. But it's important to think about, 50% of marriages, and especially in our area, do end in divorce. And when you're getting married, you're entering into a contract with certain rights and responsibilities. And it also subjects you to Florida laws of dissolution on how to dissolve that. So it's something that you really do need to think about for more reasons than, Donald Trump and Ivanka or something like that, that even just normal, everyday people with regular salaries and middle class do need that to protect assets, protect children from prior marriages a lot of times, and even alimony. And that's a big topic of conversation lately before the governor did veto the alimony bill. But there are a lot of considerations to discuss about assets and how you're going to deal with that in the event of the failure of your marriage.
I have to ask, how do you comfortably bring it up? I know communication is key, and obviously there should be great communication before you decide to get married, but how do you say, oh, by the way, is there a way to bring it up?
Unfortunately, I don't have any really good advice how to make that comfortable, because it is an uncomfortable conversation to have. It brings up feelings, especially if one partner has more assets to lose than the other.
Right.
Then the other partner could feel like, well, you don't trust me, or one partner may be feeling, well, you're only marrying me for my money. So those are things that people tend to ignore because they're in love and they're planning, how many children they're going to have, where they're going to live, what kind of dog they're going to get. But those are things that eventually do become issues later on in the marriage. So if it were me, I would like to discuss it now and have those uncomfortable conversations now than later when it's too late to do that. So it is something important. A lot of times people will get a pastor or even an attorney, although that can be sometimes antagonistic because it's a lawyer and we have a bad rap sometimes. But to have those conversations, a mutual third party that can help facilitate that, to be able to decide what you want to do. Because if you decide for yourselves now before you get married, then you're not going to have a judge and the Florida law saying what's going to happen. And a lot of times it gives you more control and it saves you money in the long run, because you're not paying $250 to $350 an hour for a lawyer to fight over, the ferns, which I have had a case where we literally remediated some special ferns, yes, or Tupperware or something silly.
Really?
Because it's, yes.
Tupperware? Casey, you can have the Tupperware.
Two attorneys and a mediator with a Tupperware on the mediation table. And I'm not kidding, because people just get really upset. They're emotional. There's a lot of really nasty reasons why people get divorced.
And they're acting out of emotion as opposed to analytical.
Absolutely. And other, not just in the event of divorce, but in the event of death too, of one of either the husband or the wife. People think, well, if they have children from a prior marriage or a prior relationship, which happens a lot these days, you're on your second or third marriage, or something like that. People assume that if they have a will, that their assets will go to their child of the prior marriage. But what they forget about is, under Florida probate law, a spouse is entitled to 25% off the top of that estate. Oh. So you need to provide for your children a lot of times too. And we'd all love to think in a perfect world that your spouse would take care of their stepchild or do the right thing, but our office
We've
can
all
tell
seen Cinderella.
We all have seen Cinderella, but everything doesn't happen that way in real life. It's not a fairy tale for most of us anyway. I mean, I guess every once in a while there is a Cinderella.
Cinderella was the. Let me explain Cinderella. How it works.
I was not ready for that.
The wicked stepmother.
Yeah,
right.
But
you may not think she's a wicked stepmother. I'm sure that he thought that she was great.
Until it was too late.
And you said you've seen in your office too, unfortunately, what money will do to some people.
It does.
Firsthand.
It is.
Yeah, it puts it into a situation.
But also, again, with not in the event of divorce or something like that with the kids, but with debts as well. We have partners. One of the big issues, financial problems, are the leading cause of divorce. You have savers, you have spenders, and if I'm a saver and my husband would be a spender, and we get divorced for whatever reason, and he has $100,000 and that I have none, guess what? Under Florida law, if you don't have a prenuptial agreement, I have to pay half of that debt. So it's a way to decide now what you're going to do, where you're going to live, alimony again, those types of things. So there's a lot of things that you can decide now, and prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and know exactly what you're going into. And I think that it's a situation where people can try to prevent divorce later on, especially if everybody knows what's going to happen. There's not a lot of the unknowns involved in it.
Okay.
And I've only had one client that didn't end up getting married after a prenuptial agreement, and that was a really
But you
good
said
thing.
she was trying to get some money. No, this girl was trying to get some money.
She was the classic person that said, well, I'll just find somebody who'll marry me that doesn't want a prenup.
You got to say that. She said,
Right.
I'll just find somebody that doesn't want to
She
do a prenup.
absolutely did,
There you
and
go.
left with
So
her
it wasn't
Gucci
the
bag.
fern person. I can't get over the ferns in the Tupperware. I just...
Well, you see, but people
was
do. I
divorce,
mean,
yeah.
that happens a lot.
Wow.
And the only winners there are the lawyers.
Maybe because I don't cook and anything I grow dies.
Right.
So maybe that's
So
why
you would be fighting for the Tupperware. No, I need my
use
leftover
Tupperware.
containers.
I don't cook. I can't get it done.
We'd like to thank
Anyway,
Our Lady of the
thank
Law,
you.
Felicia Walker,
Thank
for the
you.
advice, and thanks to Emery, Kast, and Walker for sponsoring this segment.
And remember, they say the biggest mistake that you can make when you're facing any sort of hardship, financial or otherwise, is to do nothing. The legal team of Emery, Kast, and Walker, they say they understand exactly what you're going through. They understand there are good people that just go through some bad times. So visit their website at www.jackslawyer.com, or you can call them at 904-404-3394 for a free consultation to find solutions to your problems.
And don't end up a Cinderella story. Well, the end was good, but the pre, it was not so good.